I definitely made a mistake on the course setup. I should have listened a little bit more to my intuition, and we, for whatever reason, that wasn't the right way to set the course up. We didn't expect the greens to be this soft. We tried to set the course up to help our team. Obviously, it wasn't the right decision. I think anytime you're the leader of a team, or you're the captain or the coach or whatever, we talked about this last night, you have to take, you're going to get the accolades, and you need to take the blame for when things don't.
There are moments in sports that feel bigger than just a loss. Moments where the cracks beneath the surface burst wide open and the whole world finally sees what's really going on. This was one of those moments. When newly leaked footage of Team USA's captain Keegan Bradley surfaced online, eyes swollen, voice trembling, it didn't just shake the golf community, it practically set it on fire. What was meant to stay locked behind closed doors turned into a viral explosion, a captain breaking down, a world #1 on the edge, and a Ryder Cup unraveling in real time. At the center of all this, two names now etched into golf's most uncomfortable legend, Keegan Bradley and Scottie Scheffler. But what actually happened? Because behind every viral moment is a story nobody was supposed to hear. It was quiet at first. No headline, no press release. Just a shaky, dimly lit fan shot video that started bubbling up on Reddit before spreading like wildfire to golf Twitter and then everywhere else.
I am absolutely gobsmacked at how bad Scottie Scheffler is in the Ryder Cup, but I am absolutely more gobsmacked at how bad a captain Keegan Bradley is. I honestly thought Keegan Bradley was going to be such a good captain, but he is awful, and so much awful that he's picked Scottie Scheffler to drag Bryson DeChambeau down this afternoon in the Sunday four balls. It's just mad.
Keegan Bradley sat alone in a locker room, shoulders hunched, face drawn. There was no podium, no sponsor backdrop, just a tired man in a golf polo, staring at nothing. The voice that followed was even stranger. Not staged, not scripted, just raw. Scottie carried the weight of the world out there. That one sentence broke the internet. To outsiders, it might have sounded like a typical post-match nod, honorable, maybe even noble. But to the die-hard golf world, it felt off. Too calculated. Too fragile. The tone wasn't that of a proud captain. It was of a man trying to convince himself that he hadn't just handed Europe the Ryder Cup on a silver platter. Within hours, the clip was everywhere.
You got to make a decision on what to do, and if I could go back, I probably would have changed that. But the Europeans played just incredible golf. Doesn't matter how you set the course up when you play that well and you perform at that high level. I mean, that's as high of a level as a Ryder Cup team has ever played on for those 2 days, I think. And when that happens, they just beat.
Golf fans dissected every blink, every pause, every exhausted sigh. Some called it heartbreak, others called it spin. The debate split the community straight down the middle. "He's a real leader owning up to failure," one tweet read. "Nah, he looks like someone trying to save face before the PGA buries him," fired back another. But that wasn't even the controversial part. Because the clip? It kept going. Bradley's voice cracked as he leaned closer to whoever was behind the camera, and that's when he said it. Quietly. Almost like he didn't mean to speak it out loud. "We set the course up to help our guys, but I guess we helped them instead." That line hit like a thunderclap. In an instant, the entire narrative exploded. The US team had allegedly rigged the Bethpage setup softer greens, friendly yardage, tailored to boost the American power game. But instead of creating a home field advantage, it gave Europe's sharpshooters exactly what they needed to dismantle Team USA, one match at a time. Golf fans didn't just react, they freaked out. Memes hit TikTok like a tidal wave. Posts went up with captions like "Self-Sabotage," "PGA Edition," and "Keegan Bradley speedrunning leadership grief in 4 Kelvins." Reddit threads packed with conspiracy theories popped up within hours. Some said the footage came straight from a teammate's phone. Others swore it was leaked intentionally by a PGA insider looking to burn bridges on their way out. One anonymous comment even claimed it was part of a European espionage tactic, a SCOP operation, whatever that means, designed to destabilize the American locker room from the inside out. Suddenly, people weren't just watching a breakdown, they were watching a scandal. What started as a quiet admission, unplanned, unguarded, quickly turned into golf's biggest social media firestorm since the Patrick Reed family saga. Except this time, it wasn't petty. This time, it was war. And the tragedy? Bradley wasn't wrong. The course was set up to help Team USA. But in the most ironic twist possible, it became their own downfall. Bradley's confession wasn't just emotional, it was tactical. And to understand just how badly it all blew up, you have to rewind to the very thing that was supposed to be America's secret weapon. Bethpage Black itself. Built like a fortress and wrapped in legend, Bethpage wasn't just another Ryder Cup course, it was Team USA's revenge stage. The plan? Use beefed-up layouts and softened greens to muscle Europe into submission. Wide fairways. Forgiving conditions. A playground for power hitters. Sounded bulletproof on paper. But golf doesn't care about paper. The Americans didn't just misjudge the course, they weaponized it against themselves. The greens softened to boost approach shots, and drama played straight into Europe's hands. Players like Rory McIlroy and Tyrrell Hatton didn't just survive the setup, they thrived in it. Laser accurate with wedges, icy cold with the flat stick. Their short game feasted while the Americans built for speed and muscle overshot, choked, and stumbled. "We set it up for us," Bradley said again in the leaked tape, "but it helped them instead." That wasn't just self-awareness, it was chess on fire. Bradley thought he was building a home field advantage. Instead, he handed Europe a damn blueprint. By the end of day one, the energy had already shifted. The crowd at Bethpage, once buzzing with chants and red, white, and blue roars, began to fizzle. Smiles turned into furrowed brows. Jokes stopped halfway through. Something felt off, and everyone could feel it. Scottie Scheffler, the pride of American golf, went out first alongside Russell Henley. No one doubted the pairing. On any other weekend, it would have been lethal. This one, it was a disaster. Rory and Tommy Fleetwood picked them apart like masters with scalpels. Methodical, merciless. By the third hole, Europe was already strutting. By the seventh, Scottie looked like he'd aged 5 years. The pressure? Immense. The scoreboard? Bleeding. Bradley tried to hold the line, telling press it was still early and the boys were just finding their rhythm. "Scottie's our anchor," he said post-match, forcing a tired smile. "He just wants to win for the team." The internet didn't buy it. Within hours, that quote was ripped, memed, and remixed over TikToks showing missed putts and slow-motion shots of Scheffler's face blank, distant, unraveling. Golf Twitter had seen enough. They softened the greens and Europe said, "Thank you for your service." It was worse than just losing. It was losing because of your own plan. Like bringing a sword to a sniper war. It wasn't just tactical failure. It was poetic collapse. And Bradley? He owned it, yes. But sometimes owning it just isn't enough, especially when the iceberg was hand-carved by your own leadership. Scottie Scheffler was supposed to be the Iceman. World number one, calm under fire, unshakable. The kind of player who doesn't just win, he dominates. But by the end of day 2 at Bethpage, that image had fully shattered. From the outside, it looked like just another off week. A few missed putts, a couple of bad reads. But anyone paying attention knew better. By the second round, Scheffler had already been paired with 2 different teammates. First Russell Henley, then Colin Morikawa. Names with respect, real pedigree. Each time the result was the same, another embarrassing loss. And in every press moment, in every clip, in every single fan video, that slow, invisible unraveling got clearer. The energy was off, the eyes vacant, the swagger gone. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week. One fan posted on TikTok, showing a close-up of Scheffler walking off the back 9. This ain't just pressure, this is internal collapse. And people noticed. Fast. By day 2's final tee-off, Scheffler wasn't just struggling, he looked haunted. Shoulders slumped like he was carrying something heavier than clubs. Another meme went viral, comparing prime Scheffler to Ryder Cup Scheffler. One photo showed him holding a trophy with fire in his eyes. The next? His blank stare at Bethpage, captioned simply, "Lost in the fog." Commentators tried to soften the impact. Tough conditions, they said, emotions running high. But fans weren't buying the sugarcoating. They weren't watching a dip in performance. They were watching a meltdown in slow motion. Every time the camera cuts to him, one broadcaster noted mid-round, "You can almost see it like he's somewhere else entirely." And then came the moment. It wasn't televised, not at first, but if you've seen the leaked footage, you know the clip. That shot of Scheffler sitting on the team bench after another blown match, staring a hole into the grass, hands clenched tight, breathing slow and labored. Nearby, Keegan Bradley leans in and softly says, "I think he's more worried about me than himself." That line carved itself into internet history within hours. Fans didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Was it loyalty? Codependency? Two men completely gassed out of hope? Either way, the breakdown had a face now, a moment of raw humanity caught on film. Scheffler wasn't just losing matches. He was losing himself. And the worst part? It wasn't even over yet. The tipping point came fast. The 15th green. New York crowd. One beer-fueled heckle too many. The moment the calmest man in golf finally snapped. Let's talk about that. The 15th green at Bethpage is where everything broke. By this point, America wasn't just behind on the leaderboard, they were unraveling emotionally. And in the middle of it all stood Scottie Scheffler, barely holding it together, paired once again with Russell Henley, staring down another European juggernaut pairing, Jon Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton. Rahm was stone-faced power. Hatton was chaos in human form. The crowd loved it. The dominance. The swagger. The Europeans were having fun, and that was the problem. Team USA? They weren't just losing, they were getting embarrassed. And then it happened. One missed putt. That's all it took. A birdie look, clean setup, textbook stroke, and the ball lipped out in cruel slow motion. You could almost hear the air get sucked out of the gallery. And then the mocking started. A cheer, sarcastic and sharp, rose from one corner of the crowd. A drunk fan or 10 shouted something unintelligible, followed by a loud, mocking, "Let's go Europe" chant. Another voice chimed in. "World number one! Can't make a three-footer." Scheffler froze, eyes locked, jaw clenched. This wasn't frustration. It was fury, controlled fury just beginning to leak out from behind the mask. He stepped back from the ball, ignoring Henley's concerned glance. Justin Rose on the European side looked over, curious. Fleetwood? He smirked. Even Bryson DeChambeau muttered from the sidelines, trying to calm the energy. But it wasn't working. Something inside Scheffler snapped. In the videos that followed, shaky, zoomed in, fan-recorded chaos, you can see the exact moment. His mouth moves, words no one could hear at the time. Some said he cursed under his breath. Others said he muttered something at the crowd. But the body language said it all. A man no longer playing golf. A man trying not to explode. Later, social media got to work frame by frame, lip readers and theory peddlers working overtime. One clip showed a European caddy leaning in, whispering, "He's losing it." And they weren't wrong. The PGA's official coverage? Sanitized. Polished. You'd never know anything had happened. But the internet? It had receipts. The moment was immediately dubbed the Green Explosion. TikTok feeds flooded with dramatic edits, violins crescendoing to slow-motion replays of the missed putt, followed by the freeze frame of Scheffler's stare. One edit compared it to Kanye's "I'ma let you finish" moment, edited over Caddyshack clips and dramatic orchestral drops. Golf had become cinema. Golf's calmest man just lost his grip, and it was beautiful, one viral comment read. And yet, behind the chaos, there was something hauntingly real about it all. For years, Scheffler had been the emotional anchor. Nothing rattled him, nothing cracked the surface. Until now. That patch of green didn't just host another hole. It became etched in golf history as the moment perfection finally gave way to pressure. While the internet dissected every frame of Scottie Scheffler's meltdown, another story was quietly unfolding, quieter, but somehow heavier. It wasn't full of loud gestures or angry stares. This collapse didn't happen in public view. It leaked. Keegan Bradley had walked into this Ryder Cup as the underdog's captain. Gritty, emotional, passionate, the kind of guy you want in your corner. But by day 2, the swagger was gone. And when the now infamous videos started making the rounds, it wasn't Scottie people were reposting anymore. It was Keegan broken, blinking hard, whispering truth into the silence. The clip caught him in the locker room post-match. No coaches, no entourage. Just a man sitting beneath a fluorescent light, as if the air itself was too heavy to breathe. He looked down, then up, then off into nowhere. "Sometimes," he said, barely above a whisper, "the pressure just eats you alive." He didn't say it for the cameras, he didn't even know they were rolling, but that line, it hit like a gut punch across the internet. Within hours, it was everywhere. Me after submitting one resume, someone joked on TikTok, overlaying the clip with piano music. Me after trying to be productive for 10 minutes. Funny, maybe, but under the layers of sarcasm, there was something else. People felt it. For the first time in seemingly forever, a golf captain didn't sound like a polished spokesperson. He sounded like us. Exhausted, frustrated, grasping for meaning in a moment that refused to give any. Bradley continued speaking in the clip, quietly reflecting on the disaster unfolding under his watch. "Scottie was more worried about me than himself," he said to someone off camera. "That kid gave everything. He never stopped trying." To fans, it sounded heartbreaking. To analysts, it was code. "He's not defending Scottie," one pundit quickly argued. "He's defending his own decisions." And maybe that was true. Maybe every word Bradley spoke was drenched in guilt and hindsight. But it didn't matter. The moment wasn't about stats anymore. It was about something golf rarely shows: emotional transparency. He wasn't lashing out. He wasn't blaming. He was unraveling, publicly, painfully, and people couldn't stop watching. By the next morning, screenshots from the video were everywhere. Sad Instagram edits, ironic Twitter posts, TikToks remixed with heartbreak vocals. The man who'd walked in fists raised for Team USA was now being called the philosopher of failure. Not out of mockery, but out of something stranger: respect. And then came the line. At the tail end of the clip, voice cracked but eyes steady, Bradley looked up through the storm and said, "Sometimes you lose beautifully. And that has to count for something." That quote? It detonated online. Printed on t-shirts, turned into wallpapers, hashtagged, reshared, parodied, immortalized. Suddenly, defeat wasn't weakness. It was art. It was supposed to be routine. Another post-tournament press conference. A few stock questions. Some vanilla answers about learning experiences and growing from adversity. Instead, it turned into something closer to an autopsy, and Keegan Bradley was the one holding the scalpel. He walked into the press room looking like a man who hadn't slept in days. The usual PR handler stood back, eyes scanning the room like they knew trouble was coming. But Bradley didn't wait for the safety net. He just looked up, exhaled, and dropped the kind of line that doesn't belong in modern sports. "This is no one's fault but mine." Silence. Not a single camera shutter. Not a single rustle of paper. Just silence. And then he kept going, eyes dead ahead, voice low but direct. "I made mistakes in the setup. I was stubborn with the pairings. I misread the greens. It favored them, and I didn't stop it. That's on me." He didn't sound angry or defensive. He sounded emptied out, like a man who'd already argued with himself for 72 straight hours, and finally gave up the fight. Usually, comments like that come in documentaries 5 years after the fact, carefully curated, measured with hindsight. But this was real-time collapse. The fog was still fresh, the bruises still visible. One reporter quietly asked, "Keegan, what would you do differently?" He looked up, eyes glassy but locked in. "Steel behind the wreckage. I'd listen to my players, listen to my gut. I thought power was our weapon. Turns out it was our weakness." It didn't sound like regret. It sounded like a confession. And in that moment, golf, the most tightly wound sport on earth, let the mask slip. No more buttoned-up statements, no more blame games. Just the raw, ugly weight of public failure, dragging itself across the floor of the room like a ghost. "We gave everything," Bradley added. But sometimes effort isn't loud enough to matter. There was no spin, no pivot to next season, no "we'll bounce back stronger." It was honesty, the kind of honesty that makes reporters forget to take notes. One journalist from The Guardian whispered afterward, "That wasn't a press conference, that was a eulogy." Social media, predictably, blew up all over again. Clips circulated within minutes this time, not from fans, but from every major network account. ESPN, PGA Tour, Golf Channel. No one wanted to miss a piece of the wreckage. Some called it bravery. "Finally, a captain unafraid to bleed in public," one tweet read. Others, not so generous. "Just another sympathy play," scoffed a Golf Digest columnist. "He's not being honest, he's doing damage control on camera." The truth didn't even matter anymore, because for the first time in years, golf had stopped feeling robotic. The storyline wasn't about club speed or spin rate, it was about a captain, broken in plain sight, telling us exactly where it all went wrong and taking the hit without flinching. While Keegan Bradley was giving the most brutally honest press conference golf had seen in a decade, Scottie Scheffler vanished. No mic, no statement, no tweet, not even a tap back on Instagram. He didn't owe anyone anything, at least not publicly. But that silence, it didn't come gently. It came like fog-heavy, slow, and filled with everything left unsaid. At first, fans assumed he just needed time, a few days of detox, a mental health break. But when Scheffler skipped the post-tournament interviews, then missed a PGA appearance, then showed up at a smaller tour stop days later, cheerful but unreadable, something changed. This wasn't rest, it was self-erasure. Scheffler played well at that minor event. He even won quietly, efficiently, without emotion. But the press? Frozen out. Asked about Bethpage? He smiled politely and changed the subject. Asked about Bradley's press conference? Another polite smile. Keegan said what he needed to say, he replied. Then he walked out. And just like that, the world number one became a ghost in his own story. The internet, of course, did exactly what you'd expect. It drowned in speculation. Is Scottie hiding something? Is he done with Ryder Cup play for good? Was it guilt or disgust? But the part that hit hardest? He never denied any of it, never defended his performance, never corrected any rumors. Just silence. Golf journalists tried to spin it as composure. Pundits leaned toward damage control. He's being smart, one analyst said. Let Keegan take the hit. Stay quiet, play clean, rebuild quietly. But fans weren't convinced. At least not all of them. One Reddit thread exploded with over 6,000 comments in a night, debating whether Scheffler's silence was a sign of grace or guilt. He watched the house burn down and left without grabbing a hose. One top comment said. Others were more forgiving. Maybe the guy simply ran out of gas. He's human. The most telling clue came from a rumor of a private text. Allegedly, sources close to the team leaked it to a podcast. Keegan, you did what you thought was right. That's all any of us can do. Some took it as support. Others ripped it apart as peak non-accountability, a polite way of saying, this isn't on me. At that point, Scheffler's silence wasn't absence. It was presence by omission. He became the blank space onto which everyone projected their version of the truth. Fans called it mysterious. Critics called it weak. Commentators called it strategic. But what it really felt like? Haunting. Scheffler wasn't talking, and because of that, everyone else couldn't stop. By the time Europe was lifting the Ryder Cup under the harsh white lights of Bethpage, the real headlines weren't about points anymore. They were about a leak. A 2-minute video that felt more like reality TV's season finale than someone's post-match speech. And it refused to go away. Within 48 hours, it had become the most watched golf-related clip online since Tiger's comeback. TikToks, breakup edits, sad violin soundtracks, everywhere. People weren't just watching it, they were studying it, relating to it. That now iconic shot of Bradley, slouched, voice cracking, whispering, "Sometimes you lose beautifully." It wasn't just a quote anymore. It became merch. A mantra, a cultural glitch in golf's matrix. Reddit threads turned philosophical. Twitter got dramatic. TikTok turned it into relatable content for every job, relationship, or situation that crashed and burned despite your best effort. Point of view, you studied for the exam and still failed. Point of view, your fantasy team goes 0-6 and it's only week 3. The phrase, lose beautifully, was printed on t-shirts styled like designer drops. Memes flooded the space. Podcasts debated it. Commentators tried to intellectualize it. But at its core, it wasn't golf fans keeping the story alive. It was everyone. The clip had broken through the walls of the sport and hit something more human, something that didn't care about swing speed or fairway stats. People saw two men, one too emotional to keep speaking, the other too silenced to say anything at all, and they saw themselves. It was proof of something none of golf's expensive branding could manufacture: authenticity. And once people felt it, they couldn't unfeel it. Even the PGA couldn't ignore it. Behind closed doors, insiders leaked that the association was in spin mode, rushing to label the leak a privacy breach and issue internal briefings on player vulnerability protocols. But the truth? It was already too late. The impact had escaped. This wasn't just a sports controversy anymore. It was a cultural moment. For the first time, one columnist wrote, "Golf felt alive, messy, human, unfiltered, and people paid attention because of it, not in spite of it." Every attempt to pivot the conversation, stats, breakdowns, next season, predictions fell flat. Nobody wanted to talk about what went wrong on the course. What mattered was what went wrong behind it. The strategy wasn't the story. The leadership wasn't the story. The emotions were, and even months later, long after the champagne dried on Europe's jerseys and Team USA retreated into silence, the memes still circulated, the edits kept resurfacing, and Bradley's trembling whisper still hit just as hard. Lose beautifully. It wasn't meant to be a slogan, but somehow it became the most honest thing golf had said in years. In the end, 2025 won't be remembered for who lifted the Ryder Cup. It'll be remembered for the silence that followed, for the captain who cried instead of spinning a narrative, for the world number one who vanished and let the noise speak for him, for a leak that wasn't polished or planned but real. This wasn't golf losing control. It was golf finally feeling human. It gave us heartbreak we weren't ready for, honesty we didn't expect, and a moment where a sport obsessed with perfection cracked just enough for the truth to shine through. Keegan Bradley became a cautionary tale to some, a cult hero to others. Scottie Scheffler became a mystery, but together they gave us something golf rarely does: authenticity. Now it's your turn. Was it weakness or something deeper? Drop a comment, like if you felt it, and subscribe for more stories where silence speaks louder than victory.